When was the last time you felt like a total beginner? And how did you respond? Whether you're learning a language, chasing a dream, or just trying something new, growth never looks perfect. In this episode, I'm sharing 7 powerful components that will help you stick with the messy middle and show up for your own evolution. Let's get into it. Welcome to Star Potential, a podcast where we explore the meaning of our existence while having a few laughs and sometimes tears through stories from the road of life. I'm your host, Julie Jo Hughes. As a stage performer, my life is quite literally about song and dance. I believe that life here on Earth is a playground for discovery, not a contest to be won. We ask questions together like, how do I evolve my consciousness? And how do you sing a passionate ballad when there's an old guy in the front row with his balls showing? True story. Stick around for these fun conversations. Hi, and welcome to Star Potential. I'm your host, Julie Jo. Here, we talk a lot about evolving, expanding, growing our consciousness, having awareness of something, and being able to grow from exactly where we are. In my opinion, the first thing we have to do to be able to grow, and actually this is widely accepted by a lot of spiritual teachers, is the idea of know thyself and then accept thyself and then love thyself. So the first step is having that awareness and learning about ourselves. The second step is then to be able to see what is there without judgment and accepting what is, not resisting it. And then the third would be growing from there, being able to, from a place of non-judgmental awareness, being able to implement growth and change. That's the path we keep coming back to. So I started thinking about the many times in my life when I've learned something new or expanded my abilities. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm making the assumption that you're also a person who's looking to grow and expand your edges. I love learning new things. And today I'm going to break down 7 core components that I believe are crucial for implementing growth. Whether you're learning a new skill, changing a habit, or pushing past a personal edge. These are the components I've used again and again in my own life when teaching myself something new. As we start, I would like you to just take a moment, take a few breaths, and I want you to think about one way in which you would like to expand. What's one area in which you would like to grow your edges? Or perhaps it's a new skill you've been wanting to tackle. Maybe it's something you've been putting off for years, like learning to play the piano or learning to speak Spanish. Perhaps it's how to bake your grandmother's famous apple pie. Think of some way that you're wanting to expand or a new skill that you're wanting to acquire. I'll give you a few examples of some things I've implemented and learned over time using this set of core components. When I became pregnant with my second child, I wanted to learn about hypnobirthing. It took a commitment, which is going to move us into our first component here. It took a commitment of practicing the affirmations and breathing techniques and visualizations consistently. Another was when I started getting more serious with my now husband. I knew that his family only spoke Serbian and not English, and I only knew a handful of Serbian words. So I took it upon myself to learn the Serbian language, and still expanding to this day. Another example was my husband introducing me to new body feats that I could teach myself to do, like strengthening my muscles around my shoulder blades so that eventually I can do a handstand. That would be another example of something that I've worked toward. You might have the example of gaining courage to speak more in front of others, or and it could just be education related, right? It could be that you want to gain a certain amount of skills so that you then have a skill set that is marketable. Maybe at the end you attain some kind of accreditation or something. But these are all examples of things that you could visualize when we're thinking about applying these 7 components. Before we dive into the 7 components, I want to acknowledge something important. When you start something new, your ego will push back. That resistance isn't a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're evolving. And in any type of growth, you will always feel that resistance. It's normal. And stay tuned for a bonus mini-sode all about resistance that we encounter. But for now, I just want you to note that that is something to be expected and it will come up for you. All right, now that you have your expansion topic in mind, let's go through these 7 components. The first component in being able to work towards a new skill or acquire new knowledge is consistency and commitment. And so as you are working through all these things, the first thing you have to know is that it does require, first and foremost, a commitment, an absolute agreement with yourself that you are embarking on this thing that you want to learn. If you're not willing to even commit that to yourself, you will half-ass the whole thing. You will give yourself permission to quit. You will give yourself permission to fail and not continue. That's the important part of that phrase, fail and not continue, because failure is coming, and we're going to talk about that in number 2. But the commitment to yourself, even if it's just to yourself, I find that writing is very powerful. If you want to write it down in a journal with a date, a lot of times is very powerful. Not necessarily a date of completion, but the date that you're embarking upon it. Remember when you made this decision that you were going to start learning something. Now, if you are a person that knows you have really strong willpower, perhaps you could skip over this step of like declaring your commitment, because you know that if you embark upon something, you will see it to completion, so to speak. Now, we are not going to be focusing on completion here. We're focusing on the journey, not the destination, but that is going to be another one of our components. But what I do want you to do is start taking action. Okay, and so sometimes that first step of action is just the commitment to the action itself. And then the other half of that, number 1, would be the consistency. So if you are able to get up and start your day with it each day, that's one way you can make it consistent. Often when we're looking to add in a new habit, you've probably heard this one before, it's helpful to tack it on interconnectedly with some other habit that already exists. Like, I really want to start flossing more, so every time after I finish brushing, I'm going to floss my teeth. That's just an example. You could say, I really want to commit to starting a meditation practice. So how am I going to commit to doing that every single day? Well, I'm going to, first of all, set my alarm. That's my first set of intention for a certain time of the day that I know I want to wake up in order to give myself the space and physical time to do the meditation. And the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the space where I know I'm going to do it, perhaps. If it's exercising, one thing that a lot of books recommend is you set out your exercise clothes and shoes the night before so that right when you get up, they're right there ready for you. You don't have the added step of, oh, well, I would have to pick out my exercise clothes and, oh, maybe they're not clean or whatever. So you just make the commitment and set yourself up to be consistent. That's component number 1. Let's go ahead and move on to component number 2. You must have a willingness to fail. So as I mentioned before, failing forward is inevitable. And in order to learn something new, you must accept that there will be failure involved. And so don't let it surprise you The first time you fail at it and it feels like I failed miserably and I'm horrible at this, okay, let's go back to you knew you were going to fail. Now let's accept it. Now we can move forward. It's just a part of learning something new that you're going to make some mistakes. If you didn't make mistakes, then you're not learning something new. Somehow you already knew this. So part of learning something new or acquiring a new skill is failing. And that's okay. The drive to continue when you could be embarrassed, that has to be a part of your willingness to fail. So it might feel embarrassing for you. You have to be willing to live with that embarrassment or that failure. Have a beginner's mindset. You must have an acceptance of what is. So whatever happens as you are failing forward, just accept it. And the more you can remember that you're a beginner at this and you're learning something new, the easier it will be for you to give yourself grace and have that willingness to fail. Number 3, be okay with asking for help. This has been such a big one for me, especially for a lot of us that have a lot of pride and consider ourselves self-motivated, self-starters, or some of us who might consider ourselves kind of loners. We really like to do things by ourselves. Sorry, I just thought of that line from the 40-Year-Old Virgin. Do you like to do it yourself? Yes, I do. But I digress. Don't let your ego keep you from learning and receiving guidance. And this is something I've talked about before on the podcast, like in my travel episode, when I talked about traveling with small children and you know you can handle it, but somebody offers to put your bag up for you. Like, yes, let them help you. This is the same idea here. As you are learning something new, just accept that you don't know everything about it yet. And there are other people who do know a lot about it. Be humble, be open to receiving wisdom from others who have gone before you, who already know more about this than you do. And don't let your ego or your pride be hurt by recognizing there's a lot of wisdom in being able to recognize what you don't know and being willing to let someone help you or being willing to seek out a helper in that process. There is zero shame in recognizing that you need a little help with something and seeking out the help that you need. All right. So far we have consistency and commitment, a willingness to fail, be okay asking for help. Number 4 is to focus on smaller steps as you go. So you're going to set yourself up to make it really hard to continue if the only goal you're focusing on is the end one. And so I don't even like to think of it as an end goal. It's the destination is the intention toward which you are heading. But what's important for you to focus on is where you are and where you're going next. So when I was teaching myself the Serbian language, I recognized that I wasn't going to be able to speak in full sentences with perfect grammar. Now, my perfectionist personality really had a hard time with that when I would go to speak to people. I really wanted to wait and think through the whole sentence in my mind so I could get the grammar correct before saying anything. What happens is people get tired of waiting on you to speak and they start trying to guess at what it is you might be trying to say. So instead, I learned to start spitting out ideas and pieces from where I was. I knew I needed to find a restroom. So I would say, "Excuse me, restroom, please." Those were the words that I knew. It wasn't grammatically correct. It was very broken. But you know what? It got me from where I was to the next step. And the people who knew more than I did, like the whole language, were able to fill in the gaps. They knew what I was trying to ask. And because I was willing to let myself be seen without having it all figured out and just accept myself where I am, they accepted me too. And I found so much welcome and so much appreciation from the people in Serbia who could see that I was learning the language and I was doing my best to attempt at using it. And I felt so accepted for exactly where I was. So the first step is accepting where we are, and then others tend to accept you where you are as well. So just look to the step that you're on and focus on expanding from there. Because as my husband Bronislav has talked about when he was with us in episode 5, it's all about expanding at the edge of our evolution. And wherever we are currently is 100% abundance. The whole universe is abundance. We're always fully abundant from wherever we are. And you might say, but I have limited capabilities compared to others. That's irrelevant. You have 100% abundance from your current state, from your edges right now. So from that 100%, you begin to expand. And when you begin to expand, you now have 100% use of those edges. You can go back and reference episode 5 if you would like a little bit deeper explanation of this. He definitely explains that so well. It is his own philosophy that I have since adopted. But that's the idea of number 4, is to focus on the smaller steps and knowing that your intention that you're setting when you wake up is, I want to learn to speak Serbian or whatever it might be. That's the direction you're heading. But now the immediate expansion you're focusing on is from right where you are. So it's not from here where I don't speak Serbian to I speak perfect fluent Serbian. That's not the expansion I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on I don't speak Serbian other than a few words, and I'm focusing on expanding and filling that into a collection of words that can help convey my desires, needs, and expressions to others. And that's where I'm expanding from. Number 5, expect setbacks. And this is a little related to the failure that I talked about, failing forward, right? But when you expect that there will be setbacks, they don't catch you off guard. You instead welcome them, and then you can just roll with it. So when something sets you back and you say, well, I was working on this new handstand skill, but then I got a wrist injury and I haven't been able to go on my hands for the past few days. Instead of letting that totally derail you, and now you're focused on the negativity and, well, sharing the story of that with everyone. I was working on my handstand, but then this happened, so now I'm not moving forward anymore. Yes, you are. You can expect the setbacks and know that sometimes shit happens and your wrist gets hurt. And even though you're working on your handstands, you're going to find other ways that you can continue expanding from that 100% abundance that you have from where you currently are today. So we're going to go from pain in the wrist, not being able to put pressure on the wrist, to I'm going to focus on some of the other muscles which will support my wrist healing. That's focusing on 100% abundance from where you are. So number 5 was to expect the setbacks. Number 6, be messy. As you're learning something new, if you are only striving for perfection, you will fail. Like you will never achieve perfection as you're learning something new, right? Even if you have beginner's luck and you have perfection for a few days, the failure is coming. We know that as we learn something new. We know this from experience, past experience, right? So be okay with getting dirty while you explore. So think of the first explorers that were finding new lands and establishing new colonizations and settlements. If they wanted to do it perfectly and only perfectly, then no new lands would have been discovered, right? As I love this analogy of being an explorer and being okay with getting dirty as you're literally carving new trails through the dirt, you have to be okay with your boots getting muddy, right? Because nobody has ever blazed that trail before. So if you're willing to be messy and you know that I can clean my boots later, but getting messy is a necessary part of the process of blazing a new trail, then you can accept it. So here we go back again, having the awareness that your boots are going to get muddy, being in acceptance of that, and knowing I will wash my boots at some point. It's fine. And I'm going to keep moving forward because this is part of the process. Okay? Be okay with being messy and not perfect. And number 7 is to honor your progress. This one is deeply empowering. It's so important to celebrate your wins, whether they're huge or tiny, because this builds your confidence and motivation along the way. When you can acknowledge how far you've come, it reminds you that every step forward matters. Even when the journey feels slow or messy, this mindset shift can be the difference between giving up and staying committed. This is one that I've really had to focus on and teach myself to celebrate some of the progress along the way. As a recovering perfectionist, and which perfectionism is really just a trauma response, right? I have found in my experience that my perfectionism stems from the fear that if all of my flaws and my authenticity were truly seen, that I would no longer be accepted, that I might be rejected for the truth of who I really am. And so that tendency to want things to be perfect is an attempt to control reality or to control the parts of me that are seen because I feel like those are the most likely to be loved. So instead, we have to recognize that desire for perfection, accept it the way it is, love that about ourselves, and then say to our nervous system, it is okay if you are truly seen for who you truly are. It is okay if somebody sees the full version of me and decides they don't really like it. I don't need to change who I am in order to have friends and people that like me. It's always much more fulfilling of a life to honestly and openly be who you are and then be able to truly connect with people that resonate with you, not some version of you that you've presented that's censored. So as we honor our process, we don't wait for the end goal of perfection to notice the journey that's taking place. Honor yourself for your continual forward motion. It is okay to celebrate the little wins along the way. I used to sometimes roll my eyes at the reward systems that we have for children and also adults. Like, do we really need a little pat on the head for every time we do the job we are expected to do? I feel like as someone who loves getting a pat on the head, I also recognize that waiting for that pat on the head doesn't really serve me in the long run. It holds me up. It's like I can't move forward until I'm getting that pat on the head. So I've learned, I'm still learning, I should say, to just stay in my lane, do what I'm doing, stop waiting for the pat on the head. If I get one, that's fine, and that can even be enjoyable. But instead of waiting for the pat on the head, I can see where I've come from and appreciate the progress that I'm making while still focusing on the forward momentum that I have. If I'm only focused on how far I am from an end goal, that's going to put me in a state of lack. So instead, we always come back to gratitude. I'm so grateful that I've been able to work toward this intention that I have. I'm grateful for the progress that I've made so far. I am grateful that I have the capacity, the willingness, and the tenacity to continue moving forward along this journey because that's what it's about. And I know it sounds cliche that it's all about the journey and not the destination, but it is. Because here's the thing, sometimes while working toward a destination, you actually decide to shift it because of what you learn along the journey. And so if you were only focused on the destination, now suddenly you're a failure, right? Or you keep working towards a destination that you no longer even really desire because that was the point the whole time, was getting to that destination. If instead the destination is your intention, that becomes the direction you're heading, then you give yourself the freedom to learn and grow along the journey. And if the destination changes course a little bit, you are absolutely in acceptance of that. And you go, wow, I love everything that I've integrated along the journey. And it actually made me decide to shift the destination a little bit because it's really not about the destination. Do you see? The destination gives you the drive. It helps you stick to your number one commitment and consistency of getting up every day with that intention, that direction in mind. But it's really about these other things you're doing along the way, honoring the progress, being messy, expecting the setbacks, focusing on the smaller steps, being okay asking for help, being willing to fail, and the commitment and the consistency of working in that direction, which are actually bringing you fulfillment, feedback, joy along the way. Now, let's close our eyes for a few minutes. I'm going to give you a little bit of nice background music. And let's take a moment to reflect upon something you are currently learning or something you want to learn but haven't fully committed to yet. Grab your journal, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, what is one small step I can take toward growth today, even if it's messy or imperfect? And I'm going to keep moving forward. You can pause the podcast, rewind if you need to. Which of the 7 components resonated with me the most, and why? Next, what kind of resistance or fear comes up when I think about being a beginner, making mistakes, or asking for help? And lastly, where in my life can I bring more compassion, patience, or playfulness into my learning process? So those were 4 questions for you to reflect upon. Let these questions be a soft place to land, not another task to get right. I have struggled with that so much on my own, finding the right answer or the right way to answer a question or to journal. Just explore. Let these questions be a space to reconnect with your own willingness to grow. You're not meant to master it all at once. You're meant to show up, keep going, and be lovingly present with yourself along the way. I will include a downloadable PDF worksheet that includes these journal prompts in the show notes so that you can easily download them if you're a person who likes to print things out and write. I absolutely get that. I trust that this episode has helped you gain some insight today, and I would love to hear your takeaways. Please shoot me a DM or talk about it in our Facebook group, Star Potential Galaxy. Until next time, keep going, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning into Star Potential with Julie Jo Hughes. If this episode resonates with you, I invite you to take 2 seconds, scroll down, and click 5 stars on the rating. It's a fast and easy way to help the show gain exposure and momentum. If you're loving the show, I invite you to leave a quick review about what you love. Reviews are like gold to podcasters, and to show my gratitude, you'll be entered to win my monthly giveaway when you send me a screenshot of your review. I also made you a gift. It's a 9-minute, simple gratitude meditation with singing to help you practice mindfulness. Just visit me on Instagram at @TheJulieJo or find the link in the show notes. Thank you for your love and support. Until next time, keep shining your light. And that's a wrap.